Hey guys, thanks for listening to Kinda Dating, the comedy dating podcast where influential guests and I break down the dating world and try to figure out why the do we all have commitment issues. Today's topic is finances. Let's do this. Guys, I'm Natasha Chandel. You're listening to Kinda Dating. I have Aisha here with me.
Hello.
How was your week, by the way?
How was my week? It was very busy. It was very long. I had a lot of work things to do.
Oh, shit.
Stayed out very, very, very late last night.
Where did you go?
So I went to a legendary ball, which is like voguing ballroom. Yes, it was
Where?
so fun. One of those like places in downtown LA. You know, they have all these like random places. And one of my friends is in a house. So I finally got to go see her perform. I know.
What?
Yeah.
I just realized you have purple in your hair.
I do.
Yeah, Aisha has the best
that's very cool.
hair.
Yeah.
The best. She always has like the coolest styles,
That's very
and
cool.
colors, and
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Earrings too.
Oh, yes, thank you.
she's
I
a
love
fashionista over here.
Cars.
So, yeah,
I have no
that's
fashion
her thing.
sense. Clearly, if anybody watches my interviews, I wear the same thing.
Oh, the uniform.
Is this your
disgusting.
interview outfit?
It's just it's there. I wear it. I like it,
Yeah.
and I get out. I'm not. Yeah, we can get into that later.
I like dressing. That's like my thing.
Yeah,
I
right.
enjoy. I
I like wearing
clothes.
suits, but like that's about it.
that's
That's
your
about
thing.
as dressed up as
I
I
can't
get.
believe though that like sometimes when I see you get in your suit, I'm like
He gets into it, and then
like
I have
it's
to like
so
put it on,
much
put it out.
work. Yeah.
I only put the top half though sometimes.
Oh, smart. We're all like, oh, right.
That makes sense.
Okay. But
Sometimes.
the top feels like the most work. With
True.
the tie, especially.
Actually, that's true,
You
yeah.
just keep it like the tie slightly open. You just
Yeah. Sometimes, and then I have to tie it again. Sometimes.
So way to ruin our intro again.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. We are
what I
used
do.
to this by now. No, I'm kidding. I love it. I actually love it. I do. It is fun, but it's also fun to point it out to you.
Yes.
Guys, if you like what you're going to hear, please screenshot this episode, tag us, and tell us what you think of it. Also, remember to tell your friends and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get it, because a word of mouth is the only way we can grow. And we really appreciate every 5-star rating or review that we get. It really helps us in the chart. So please go and do that if you haven't already. We're also on social media. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. Aisha, where are you at?
I'm at Aisha Says Dance across the board.
And I am at Natasha Chandel on TikTok and Natasha Chandel on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know. You guys I'm complicated. Just find me. You'll find it. Guys, when we first start dating someone, we ask them everything under the sun, right? We ask them, what's your favorite color? What's on your bucket list? Do you like dogs? But we rarely ask them about the thing that will affect your day-to-day life the most in a relationship. Money. Did you know that money issues are the third leading cause of divorce after basic incompatibility and infidelity? Yet we tiptoe around this issue and are surprised to find out our seemingly put together partner is actually living paycheck to paycheck with mounds of debt and no backup plan. So, how do you avoid this? Helping us to answer this question is that voice that you've been hearing. The voice of
That's what I'm
God.
going to help people on.
The voice of God.
Is their dating life.
Yeah. He's actor, social influencer,
Social influencer. That's really sweet.
layman and investor,
Yes.
Rahul Rai.
Yes. Today I'm layman investor. Or
Today
now I am.
you have a layman.
Before I was myself. Now I am layman investor.
You are a different personality.
Different people. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How's it
I'm
been?
okay.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while. I
Yeah.
haven't seen you in so
I
long.
know. Yeah. It's been a real minute.
Yes, let's talk money.
If people, we're gonna actually just jump in this episode because
Yeah,
there is actually so much.
Yeah, I feel
truly.
like there's a lot of good value.
And so guys, if you want to hear if Rahul is single or in a relationship, you got to go back to the last episode on introversion because he answered it there.
I answered it.
You did answer it. It was a good answer.
Thanks.
I actually appreciated the answer.
Thank you.
But this time we're going to talk about finances because we've never done that on the show. I have messaged you many times saying like, thank you, because Rahul helped me get financially literate.
Nice.
I was like in a phase where I was just like, I want to know more.
Mhm.
I didn't know where to start. I started seeing your stuff and I was like, let me just ask him. And you gave me great books.
Yeah.
And I actually went through all the books.
Nice.
And
you're like probably the only person who has.
I did. And then now I'm like kind of obsessed with it.
Right?
And I love
It's like a
and,
curse.
And I actually like in my 1 hour every morning where I go in my silence and I read the news and
Nice.
I'm a big news junkie. So I like read everything. I now look at financial news.
Oh.
And I track that and I like know what's
Nice.
happening.
You probably know more
and
what's happening than I do because I don't do any of that.
I am like hardcore
lazy
into
person.
it. And I love it. And I thank you a lot.
It's like a
There's
gift
still
and a
some
curse.
things I don't understand, but
Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't understand.
bonds, I'm still like, that's the one thing I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Fuck them.
But because because you kind of got me on that path. I got a financial advisor. I've like been
nice.
really like
interesting.
Wow.
And I was always a very good saver because you know Indian culture is very like save.
Yeah.
So I was very good at that. But I was like, what am I doing with this? And like, what is the plan? And what else is out there when people say diversify? I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Were you kind of always into financial literacy?
I think I would like to credit my sister because my earliest memory of money, like anything money related, is her driving me to a Bank of America to open up a CD account, a certificate of deposit. This was
How old were you?
Oh yeah, it was many years ago when I was a kid. And she did that. And that was back when you could get like a decent return.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that's where it started. And then I went to college and I studied economics. So then that became another, but they don't teach you investing. And what they teach you about money is actually, it's not all that practically useful to your day-to-day life. But that is also what got me to think about more worldly things, political things are interconnected. And then after that, it wasn't until like in like 2019, I just went on a binge of just books because I'd always been interested in investing, didn't get it. I dabbled into it just like without any knowledge, like opening up an E-Trade account, but I didn't know what I was doing. And then after college, I started reading stuff. And then in 2019, I found like all the books that I needed. And then from there, it's just been like, okay, this social media thing's not going away. Let's respect it a little more. And then let's start talking about it. But you have to walk a fine line because I'm not a financial advisor.
Yes, this is all an opinion related.
It's
podcast,
an opinion,
guys.
It's opinion, but it's also based on books. And I just what I'm trying to do is just point people into the right direction and try to just remind them that they should learn about money. You should learn about money.
You correct me if I'm wrong. And I feel like once we talked about this, and you used to do this, which is like, what as an influencer, you I'm sure making some money off of that. And but I think I've seen videos of it where you're like, I don't spend that money that you invested or do other things with that money. So that where I'm sure do you splurge in between a little and then
so financial literacy is interesting because it's like and I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about before, self-discipline, self-awareness, all this stuff. There's a self-awareness aspect of financial literacy. You need to know what your sort of indulgences are. Right. And you can't punish yourself for having them. You have them. And you enjoy clothes, you enjoy food, you enjoy going out, traveling, whatever. But you just have to develop a healthier relationship around them so that way all your money, as soon as you get, is not going in that direction. So for me, it's like food. I love food. Yeah. I will spend so much money on food, just going out if I want. I'm also a very simple person. I think maybe that has to do with being Indian, South Indian in particular. We can be very like, save, don't spend, don't go beyond your means. That's something my parents always did. I always saw them pay their bills on time. They never like gifted me a car. Mm-hmm. They never really gave me a credit card. I didn't get a cell phone until I was like 14 or 15, which actually still feels pretty young, but and it was also like a flip phone razor. Yeah. Back when that was a thing.
Oh yeah, I had my first phone when I was 14.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I at least came from an environment, and all my siblings are like, we all have come from an environment where we respect money from like a non-splurging, but we don't really know money beyond saving, and we don't know investing beyond buying a house.
Which I think is a lot of
Yeah,
people. I think
for
it's,
sure.
and especially immigrants, I think, or families of immigrants, because we're just taught so much about saving, and our families have struggled a lot. Like our parents have struggled a lot in their own ways. And so they're like, don't risk your money, have it, keep it. In
So
your-
I think a common theme amongst at least Indian people, from what I've seen, is they have really a really bad experience with the stock market,
yeah.
and they had a really good experience with the housing market,
Yes.
right? So they're very pro, and gold, jewelry.
Very true.
So they're very pro precious metals, and they're
Mhm.
very pro buying a house. I have different opinions about it because of the books that I read and that I tell people to read. But I think the first and foremost thing to understand is that money is not just a means of an exchange. It is, obviously, it's not just a unit of account, storage of value. I know this is so boring. But really, the most practically useful piece of information that I've learned is that money is your number one employee. So now if you start looking at money as a worker, as your employee, it creates a very different dynamic around money. So now when you get money, this is your employee. Your employees are supposed to make you a return. They're supposed to, and the reason why it's your number one employee is because it can outwork you. Money can work 24/7. I cannot.
Yeah.
So if money can work 24/7, you should exploit it for that. And there's no risk in exploiting money, in the sense that you don't have to feel bad about it because it's not a person.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So like money is your number one employee. That is like the number one thing to drill into your head. So when they say make money work for you, that's like a common thing you'll read
Yeah,
in like
definitely.
financial literacy books. That's, I think, really what they mean, because money is your number one employee. So then it gets into a conversation of how you, about like learning where can you get the best bang for your buck in terms of investing. But then there's a self-awareness game of like, what is your risk tolerance? What can you deal with? What do you like? What do you not like? What can you, because you want to be able to sleep soundly at night.
And oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
when you're younger, it's easier to take some risks because you have
Yes.
a lot more time to get that money back, working power,
Yes.
and the ability to work. And it tends to be that as you get older, people get a little bit more conservative
Yes.
just because they don't have time to risk.
Yeah. And I wanted to say something off that, and I don't remember. But the way you kind of mitigate risk is through self-education. That's one way, at least, you mitigate risk. So that way, the risk that you're taking is within the asset that you're investing in, and not the added risk of your own ignorance. And so when you have ignorance, which is basically what's taught from the education system that you get from your parents and the formal education system that you get from school, you're basically taught to work for money for the rest of your life and not make it work for you. So that way, when you get older, you have actually enough money to not have to downsize your lifestyle and go to Florida, but actually stay where you are. If you do money right, I think, in theory at least, my thesis, you should be able to maintain whatever your lifestyle is currently when you're at the height of your earning power. My parents, if they did money right, they should not have to downsize their life.
Yeah.
With the earning power that Indian people have, they should not have to downsize their life come retirement time.
Especially Indian Americans.
Yes, 100%. Because their earning power is so high.
Makes
they probably
so much
have
more money here.
I'm sure the Asian population has the highest earning power of any immigrant population that lives in this country.
Yeah.
Because they were well educated and all that, and they got high level jobs.
Yeah.
But the education doesn't teach you how to create wealth. And when you have no wealth, you're missing a very important piece of you're missing a very important pillar of a higher concept called leverage. And when you don't have leverage in life, then your say does not matter as much.
And so much of it also, like kind of what you said, has to do with your relationship with money too, right? Like I know for me, through this whole process, I've had to really change my relationship to it. I have openly, if I ever talk about what causes me anxiety in life, is finances.
Yeah.
Not
And
because
you're
I
not
don't
alone.
have, but because I didn't have when I was young. You know, my parents did, but I never got help
Yeah.
as a kid. I came to America by myself, and
Yeah.
I didn't have financial help. And I've literally had $1.25 in my bank account before, and been like, "How the am I gonna like take a train somewhere? How am I gonna take a bus to go to school?" And so for me, there's so much like anxiety around never going back to that place,
Yes.
and that I didn't realize was creating a very so again, I saved and I did well in that saving, but I also wouldn't let it grow
Yeah.
because I just wanted to
Yes.
have it close.
Yeah.
And then I was like fearing so much of crazy thoughts, right? You're like,
Yeah.
what if I never work again?
Yeah.
And I had to like talk myself out of it. Like, what do you mean never work again? You're an educated person. You've had all these jobs before. Why would you not? In an absolute worst case scenario, you could go to a Starbucks and get a job. Like
Yeah.
you will never be unemployed. So like you're fine as long as you're healthy. But I had to really change my relationship to finances so that it wasn't, I was looking at it like money is my employee
Yeah.
and not
Yes.
it controlling me.
Right.
The interesting thing is like when your parents tell you to go buy a house because it creates stability, it's not actually true. A house does not create stability for you because as soon as you lose a job,
Yeah.
so stability is actually created from cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have cash flow, you're fine. You have financial stability. You don't have financial stability because you own the house or you own the gold or you own this. You have financials because hopefully something is paying you.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's about figuring out if you're going to invest your money, what kind of assets can you buy or add to your portfolios. I'm not saying like buying a house is not good, buying gold is not good. They are assets and they are investments. But once you get financially literate and you start understanding, oh, there are better assets there are more productive assets for me that will actually pay me either now or into the future that I can borrow from, or I have like this giant amount of just cash that's growing that I can just siphon off of.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start to realize, oh, in the time it takes me to own a house for 40 years, the money I've poured in there, if I poured into the like index funds, I would have a lot more income and I would have a bigger nest egg. So now I that nest egg can pay me, if I borrow at it from like 4%, that can pay for my lifestyle expenses because it's $50,000.
And oftentimes the biggest mistake in the housing market too, right, is that people just buy more than they can afford. So they're like, I bought a house, and they're not realizing that that mortgage is, you know, especially in LA, let's say, people buy way above their means. And so you need to have that cash flow, or that house is.
You can always borrow.
a
I
bit
think
of
you
a
can like
threat.
borrow against your house and do all that stuff, but it's
that's what
not
I mean,
your
but then
money.
you're
It's like a
creating
credit
more
card.
debt. You're creating more debt for yourself in the long
It's
run.
like a credit card.
Yeah.
From what I understand. Now, I'm not an expert in real estate. I would say though that if you're going to create wealth through real estate, you don't want to be a homeowner. You want to be a landlord.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's where you get all the real tax benefits. That's why it's like, not to bring up his name, but like Donald Trump or like people they don't pay high federal taxes because that's how the game is.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So another part of financial literacy is understanding the tax code, the basics of it.
Well, that's the thing that I've been exploring is like investment homes that
Yes.
I'm like that are not here because I was like,
because you start
I
to
don't-
realize the bang for your buck
Yeah.
here is not going to be as much as if you buy in Florida or Texas.
Texas, yeah.
And for the amount of money you're going to spend here, you can get more units there.
Mhm.
So then you can create hopefully more passive income and that passive income is tax free.
Yep.
Because you can write off against the liabilities of the house. So like
Yep.
once you start seeing the puzzle, like the pieces, you
Yeah.
start to put it together and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
everything I've been taught
Yeah.
and not taught has completely fucked me over. Not on purpose. And then that bleeds into your entrepreneurial career. Because you realize that if you're following your passion in life and your passion is outside corporate infrastructure,
Mhm.
you are not an employee. You are an owner of business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And as an owner of business, you must know these things because you are the owner of the business.
Yeah. Also, also the shift of like we're a lot of us now are entrepreneurs in our own way, especially in a world that's becoming more and more of a gig economy.
Yes.
There are so few stable jobs, and it's actually more of an outlier if somebody has a stable job.
Yeah,
You're
and
like,
it's also just not what people want to do.
Yeah.
But to some degree, not everybody, but it's like I think the mentality is we want what our parents had, we just don't want to do it the way they did it.
Right.
But listen, I also think that a lot of us a lot of people don't have a choice anymore because every company is having layoffs and the people getting laid off. They're
Right.
laying off
Yeah.
people. I mean, I used to work when I was at I won't say the name, a big network. They were known for laying people off and then rehiring you as freelance, so they don't have to pay you
Got it.
It's fucked.
401ks and
Yeah.
anything.
You're
So,
not an employee,
but
you're a
now
contractor.
you're, and that notorious for that. So, and that seems to becoming like a way of life now. I want to switch a little because we are talking about finances also in the terms of dating, right?
Right.
And like relationships. And so, like I said earlier, study after study shows that finances are a major source of conflict in a relationship. So, why do you think we're always like avoiding talking about it? Why is it so hard? Do you actually talk to people about that if you were to date somebody?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, let's start with why is it so hard? Why does it feel hard?
I don't know. I think people have a weird relationship around money. There's a scarcity attitude. You don't want to maybe disclose how much you make, what you spend on. There's a judgment aspect to it.
Mhm.
Maybe there's an understanding that you actually don't know what you're doing. You don't know, so you kind of just hide behind certain like. I don't know. You just kind of if I don't have a relationship to it, then I don't have to respect it. If I don't have to respect it, then if I don't respect something, then I can be indifferent about it. And indifference means I don't have to take. If I don't have to take responsibility for it, I don't have to take accountability. If I don't take accountability, then I can blame you. I can blame my parents. I can blame my education. Also, there's a solidarity in ignorance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There isn't solidarity in like. There's solidarity, I think, in mediocrity. I don't know if there's solidarity, at least in just terms of numbers. Like, I think there's solidarity in mediocrity being at the base of the mountain than there is at the top of the mountain. Because the top of the mountain is just, you can't fit everybody. But anybody can get there.
Yeah.
If that
With
makes sense.
self-discipline, humility, and accountability.
Dude, these are lifestyle principles.
No, it's
That's why they
true.
permeate everything.
I'm saying, I'm listening. It is really hard. So like why do you feel in a relationship context it is important to know about finances?
I will be honest with you. I've never been. So when I have been in relationships, very rare actually. The first time I was in a relationship, I was not financially literate. I didn't have money, so I was always like, I don't want to spend. The second time I got into a relationship, like I talked about it, we talk about it, but it just didn't like end up going anywhere. But I think like it is important. I think it's like if you're in like a really committed relationship with somebody and you're like either living with them or like you're in like a long-term kind like that's like it has like real
potential.
Yes. Then I think a conversation of finances should be introduced.
I just think nowadays, though, like so many casual relationships turn into something later, right? Like they started casual and then it snowballs and suddenly 2 years later you're in a relationship with this person. And like you, at least before I was literate myself about things, I lived in this very like, don't judge anybody mentality. And definitely
judge away.
Listen, but there comes a point, right, where you're like, I dated a guy once who asked me out and then couldn't pay for a $9 champagne and then was telling me he was living on an air mattress. And
nice. He could have been a
like,
founder of a startup. You don't understand.
It could have been
How dare
wonderful, but you have to know like
Give him
what
a
works
chance.
for your life.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get clues of these things, again, when I was younger, I dated people who didn't have their shit together and saw how that affected a relationship.
Yeah.
Or sometimes like
money matters, man.
Yeah.
It's
you're
just
also
like
taking on somebody else's debt at some point.
Yeah.
Like you could have worked hard to pay off your student debts or whatever, and now suddenly you didn't realize you got in a relationship, never had the conversation about what is their credit history, what debts do they have, and then the second you're married, now you have to take that on. Because if they don't pay, you're both.
Right.
So like, and all of that gets held against you if eventually you want to buy a house together. They'll ask you what your debts are and blah, blah, blah. And like, I used to think it wasn't important. And I really used to be like, oh my God, I can't believe anybody would think, money matters.
Yeah.
And then I read all these books about relationships. And like, I think I have one here somewhere. It says like The Truth About Marriage.
Yeah.
And I never even wanted to get married, but my mom gave me that book. And one of the first things it says is talk about money.
I also think like it's just not romantic. So it's like not a it's just not a fantasy, romantic, passionate thing to talk about.
And I think it can end things so fast, right?
Yes.
Like so for some people, if you say, I have $108,000 debt from student loans, somebody's going to be like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a sexy topic, but it is sexy.
I think it's so great now.
When people, but
I love it
you've
now.
been converted.
I have.
You've converted to financial literacy as a lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, it's also intimidating to just think about how much debt you have.
It is. Yeah.
I come from a sense of privilege, so it's weird. I used to think I was too spoiled and privileged and that I deserved debt, and I envied people who were in debt because I thought they were real adults.
Oh, dear God.
They have real responsibilities. They are real adults because they have the debt. Now I realize that's a very foolish way of thinking. That people with debt are adults, and that I used to sort of envy them and think I'm still a child because I don't have debt and I don't have a responsibility, and I'm very lucky that I had parents that had the means to help me financially, and they're like I've always seen them as like number one investors in my startup, and I've sold them on the idea, and now I have to sort of make it. So, in
that's a really cool way of
that's how I
that's actually really cool.
Justify not having the shame and the guilt, because it's gotten better now, but I've had a lot of shame and guilt about, especially after coming to LA, because now I'm surrounded by actors in acting class a lot more. And I'm just hearing everybody's story, and I just feel like, wow, I'm not like Al Pacino sleeping on the floor of the theater. I'm not working 4 jobs. I'm doing Postmates, but it's pretty grueling. But I'm not worried because I have a safety net, which is why, I don't know if I talked about this in the previous episode, but like if you come from privilege, you should run faster. I really do think that.
100%.
But it's a hard mentality to have, which is why my parents are really interesting, because I grew up in privilege and spoiled, but they never gifted me things without thinking, what's the financial impact here? We're not just going to give you a car. Everybody in my neighborhood gets a car. But I also never cared for it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a nurture nature thing. I just don't care for material things. So for me, it's easier to take the money that I earn and just siphon it into all these other avenues. My dad is probably freaking out. He's like, "You're making this money. Why are you living in a studio apartment?" Ba 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 ba. Right? Everything that comes after that. And for me, it's like, there are well-educated people that have high earning power that don't understand what I'm trying to do. So when you are financially literate, it is a gift and a curse because your lifestyle and your habits are going to change, and the people around you are going to be like, "What are you? This is not the right way. And this is, you know what I mean?" But it's part of the game.
Wealth is the right word you keep using, though, because wealthy people are some of the most frugal people
So true.
in the
Yeah,
world.
there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you are rich, you are still renting out your time to make money. It's just that when you rent out your time to make the money, you make a lot of money. You get $1,000 an hour. You get $2,000 an hour. You can make $500,000 a year, whatever, income. When you are wealthy, so that means even when you're rich, you're still time poor.
Yeah.
Because you're renting out the time to make the money. When you're wealthy, your money is making you $500,000 a year because you've invested it into assets. It's not risk-free. There's never no risk. But you've invested into the assets that are paying you X amount of dollars a year that you could maybe eventually one day live off of. So now when you don't have to spend your time working for money, you now have time. And as a creative person, time is your best friend because that's where you can incubate ideas. So if you're a content creator, for example, or an actor or following your passion, and you're making money renting out your time, and then you spend that money on stuff that will never pay you back, you will always be in this vicious cycle of renting out your time for money. That means you have to say yes to the commercial you don't want to do. That means you have to say yes to the film that you don't want to do. You don't get to go take a break from film and TV and go do that theater project that you're super passionate about. Or even more, you can't fund your own stuff. When you are financially independent as a creator, you have so much more fucking leverage because you don't have to say yes.
Right.
And when you say that, it is such a, that hits me hard because while I said that, like, when I moved and after college, I didn't get that financial help. But before that, I did, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, Indian parents, my parents paid for my university.
Yes,
so
same.
that's a huge thing that I assumed everybody did, to be honest, until I came to America. And I was like, wait, how much? How much did it cost you? Also, mind you, Canadian universities cost a fraction of what my 4-year university, which was a high tuition, in Canada cost $20,000 in total.
Oh shit!
$20,500.
That's
or
like
something,
books
or $21,000.
in America.
Literally.
So for me, that was when I came here. I was like, "What?" But then the other part is, like, now that I'm in, a relationship, me and him we had different spending habits. And a big thing that we had to really talk about, where I started getting stressed about, like, oh, the world is telling me, like, I need to buy a house, I need to do this. And I was like, oh, we need to be focused on that. And I was like getting really angry about it. And then I realized, like, my mom actually was the one. She goes, wait, why are you stressed out right now? And I was like, because we need to have a house. And she's like, why?
Nice.
And I was like, retirement. And then she's like, okay, so insert privilege. My parents have homes in India
nice.
and Canada. He has homes in Spain. So she's like, and you said you don't want to retire here. So, like, you're good.
Yeah, you don't
on
need
where to
someone.
live.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So, like, I don't have to think about, like, buying the super expensive fucking house here just to as like, I need a place to live because I need something. I was like, oh, I already have that privilege, wealth.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So now I can start thinking about, how do I want to take the money I do have and make it work for me later, so that, because you might be able to have a home, but you still need to be able to afford a lifestyle.
Yes.
And then we've had to learn to do a lot of compromises because he likes spending money in different ways than I do. I don't like spending money.
Yeah.
If it's me alone, I wouldn't eat out. I don't buy a lot of shit.
Yeah.
If I do, I'm literally known as a coupon lady to this day.
Oh,
if I
nice.
told you I just bought a new car, how much I got it for with all the rebates and shit that I just got, he is like, how the like he used to make fun of me, and now he's like, okay, now he's like totally into my way, because I'm like, why? I already put money into the system, let it work for me. Yeah. But we've had to like make our compromises. He really likes traveling.
Yeah.
When he travels, he really likes to.
It
needs to be a nice place.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so like those are the things we now put into, but I've had to make him pull back in other things and make him shift some of those ways, but into thinking about it's not about being rich, it's about being wealthy.
Yeah.
Because he also used to come from this mindset of like, well, we're making money. And I'm like, no, it's not about that. It's about having that money and having it last you and work for you and grow for you later.
Yeah, my whole philosophy is like the only reason to be rich is to be wealthy faster. Mm-hmm. It's the only reason I want to be rich.
Yeah.
I don't need more things. I don't need to upgrade lifestyle. I just need to, I can just more aggressively, I can put, instead of $1,000 a month, I can put $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can grow at 10 times the speed, but then you have compound interest. So that means $10,000 repeatedly put in will grow at a higher rate than $1,000, even at the same growth rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you learn about compound, another thing, like when you learn about compound interest and compound growth, you realize that's actually life philosophy. Because if you look at your life and when you first start something, like you really suck at it. Right. But then if you are consistent and you have the self-discipline to do it month after month, day after day, year after year, you get a little better. But then you get better faster eventually because things just click. Like as a dancer, like any dancer that knows this, any dancer that actually spends more time in class learning new choreography, even if they suck, their whole skill set of learning choreography, they can learn choreography like that because they're in class repeatedly.
Yeah.
So compound growth is like, this is linear growth. This is linear growth, right? So that's 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2. So it's like that, it's a straight line. Compound growth is like this. Mm-hmm. So it looks like nothing's happening until you hit a critical mass.
And do you find that this has been a thing for me is like, because you are focused sort of on that and you are a very, I think you're a pretty disciplined person, in what you want. So like, do you find that you go out less because you'd rather be doing this other thing, or like, what is your balance?
So I think it goes back to the self-aware, like where do I like to spend money? And now that I'm making a little bit of money, I've been able to be a little less like, okay, I can't spend. But now I can spend, but what do I want to spend on? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, I love food, spend money on food. I do like to travel. I don't have much of a travel bug, but I would like to. So I think that's where I can spend some money on.
But like on a day-to-day. Do you rather like, because for me, I get shit on a lot by people because they think I just don't want to hang out. And I'm also like, yeah, but sometimes like I would rather just be working because this work will lead to more than me. But it is a balance. It is like, I try to hang out, but I also can't hang out 4 or 5 nights a week anymore the way I used to because times have changed and I'm not in the same mindset.
There's something that happens like too when you become an adult, you start paying for your own life, especially.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There's like every day there's just something to pay for.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always a bill. It's like it's just so weird. Like there's so many things that can just come up out of nowhere that you just have to have money to pay for. So then to add other things on top of that, it's like then you have to get really disciplined about like I'm not super disciplined about budgeting. Like I don't really budget my money. I just have a sort of intuitive feeling of like, I just spent too much money. I'm spending too much money lately. Let's cut it back. But I also don't go out much and socialize that much. So I don't have that. And then also like in terms of my friend circle, I don't do like trips. I don't do like, but they don't do that. Right. Mm-hmm. I have like one friend.
Your best friend.
Yeah. And that's it. And then I'll take a trip with him. Yeah. I'll do it with him. But if somebody else, like I'm not going to lie, being Indian has its like perks, but it also has its, like weddings.
Oh yeah.
Go yourself.
Oh yeah.
But not really. I mean, you have fun, but it's just like, oh, mommy, nobody in my generation can afford that wedding, and just to even go as a guest. But we're still gonna go. That is a weird, interesting cultural thing, because it's family, it's blood, or it's even like family friends. It's still blood. Kind
All
of,
my friends got married in India.
and it's just
And they're from Canada. I was like, you mother.
at least when you go to India, the trip there is expensive,
Yeah.
but the stay there is relatively cheap, right?
But it's thousands of dollars
Yeah.
I've just spent that I
Yeah.
won't get back because I don't plan on doing that.
All my Indian
So-
friends, I'm really sorry, but it's just like it is. And then you start to see people's spending habits. You're like, there's no way you're living this lifestyle.
Well, and
There's
that's
no
the
way.
thing. That is like
You
a
have
big thing. Sometimes,
privilege.
Yes. There are
Motherfucker.
people, okay.
But then
There are
when that
people that
privilege
you
comes with
know-
entitlement, I think that's bad.
Yes. No, it's
Privilege on
true.
its own is fine. But then when you start thinking you
Are owed.
I cannot fly less than blah blah blah, but it's not on your dime.
Yeah.
Judgment.
Oh, me and my boyfriend argue all the time about even little things like flights because he would rather pay for the upgrade, and I'm like, why? It's just a 12-hour flight. I'm like, it's not that big a deal. It's just 12 hours. Just fucking sleep most of the time, and you're fine. And then he wants me to sit next to him, and I'm like, why? But I'm so little. Why should I pay the extra money when I can fit? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm the tiniest person known to man. I can't touch my feet anyway, like even
Yeah.
my knees up on the fucking seat in front of me in a regular seat. So economy is like, or premium economy, I just fight about like all the littlest things about.
I think it's interesting to see, like, because I have my own
I'm
version
like,
of
well, we
that.
could just sit separately.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I want to sit next to you. I'm like, but why?
I have my own version of that, but it's interesting to see what happens when your income does grow.
Yeah.
To see how much of that still stays. It's not that it shouldn't stay or should stay. It's just like there is something about if you make like more money, it does like I can see how people are like, I don't worry about this. I don't worry about that. I will pay the extra because I need this.
The
this.
comfort.
I'm telling you, I think I have
Yeah.
like that Indian mentality.
Yeah,
Because
I
like
think in
for
some
me,
ways-
even with the first time I made, I had a really good high paying job.
Yeah.
I lived the exact same way as I did when I had nothing, and I saved so much money.
Nice.
Like I'm saying a lot. Probably 60% of my income.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, that's smart.
And then I had so much in a 401k at the time because I was like, man, what do I need this money for? I literally had no idea what to do with it because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not changing my life for this. But what it did give me, and I always say this, it gave me a sense of security and
Yeah.
comfort. So I wasn't feeling that like anxiety about
Exactly.
what's coming next. I was like, huh, okay, cool. So I try to live in the same-ish way.
Yeah.
With obviously some upgrades here and there, but still like in some level of moderation. And I don't think I could be with somebody who is like super spendthrift because it would just give me anxiety.
Yeah. Same.
It just needs to be a balance.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
We have so many listener questions.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's see what they want to know about finances. All right. Easy Go Boom says, when it comes to romantic relationships, how important is financial literacy or being financially responsible to you?
To me personally, I think it's super. I think I'm not. You don't have to be financially literate. You just have to want to learn. It's more of that, and you want to. I respect people who have a curiosity to get better at something, than have the self discipline to deploy to do the work. So I think that's actually more important than coming to the table knowing how to invest your money. And it's not like I'm an expert at it either. And I've made mistakes, and that's also another part of learning is you make mistakes and you take risks that you don't fully understand, and then you lose, and then that's how it works. And then you get wiser and you get smarter, but you take your losses, and it sucks, but it's part of the game. So anybody that just has a willingness to learn, I think is very attractive.
And I don't think it matters, like, I don't know how you feel. I think everybody has their cutoff of like what they can accept
tolerate, yes.
and
Yeah.
not tolerate. Yes.
Yes.
And I think even what I said earlier, it's like we all have some form of debt in our life. Okay,
Yeah.
we just went James Dean on us. He just popped his
Oh,
collars,
sorry.
guys, and I was like, wow, we just went like. But we all have like our thing, right? So we all have some kind of debt.
Yes.
That's okay. I think it's honestly, I hate to say this, but it's kind of like, do you believe in the other person to be able to pay that off in their life? Do they? I think if somebody has some really high level of debt, but you're looking at them going like, oh,
Your habits don't match.
no habit, no ambition, or whatever, then I'm like, all right, well, that might be a problem.
Yeah.
But if you meet somebody and you're like, hey, yeah, you have debt, we all do, but you're working really hard, you have a plan or some kind of, you're working towards something, I think gives people.
Yeah, that's how I feel about people who live with their parents. I have no judgment about it.
Oh
It's
my
just
God,
about
not at
if you
all.
have the ambition and
doing?
To
yeah.
want to get out eventually.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
chasing something where you're trying to save money to pursue it.
Save a
Yeah.
lot of
I
money
respect it.
doing that shit, yeah.
We have another one?
Yes, this one's funny. From a photography girl 152, she wants to know, what kind of women are you into, and is it okay if she's not financially literate?
I mean, kind of
I'm just
answered
joking.
that, but
I know, kind
No. Yeah. If they're not, again, it's the curiosity to learn.
and the kind of woman he's into has self-discipline and accountability
And nice feet.
humility
And nice feet.
and nice feet.
Mhm.
Arches. Nah, just joking.
With crinkles in them. We have one last question.
Yes, and I think this one is also in the same vein from Mary Beth. Should the lack of financial literacy in someone be a deal breaker, and when should you discuss financial literacy in a relationship?
Ooh, I think the when is interesting because I've never been in that situation where I've actually like talked about financials. I personally would do it if I was seriously dating somebody. If I was seriously dating somebody and I wanted to like potentially, my desire was to spend my future with them.
Right.
That's when I would, if I'm like taking that next step, that's when I would do it. But then if they like suck, but then even
But
then,
what if
like
you
you
get
can
too far in? Like,
Nah,
what
but
if?
like I could tell what your spending habits are like.
Yeah, that is the
That's
thing.
true.
So I would never get. I don't think I would ever get to a position where your spending habits are a shock to me.
That is actually a very good point. So, in doing research for this episode, a lot of experts were suggesting that, like in the beginning, you don't have to have this conversation of like,
No.
"Hey, so how much do you make? What
No.
what are your do you how many
No.
assets do you
What's
have?
your
What are your
goals?
how diversified is your
Yeah.
portfolio?" You don't need to say those things, but it is about seeing.
You scope somebody out.
Yeah, you're observing their behavior. How are they spending money? And then I do think you can ask gentle questions like, what do you like splurging on? What kind of figuring out like their values around money. Because some people might come from listen, one of my best friends, I love her to death. Me and her do not financially, like, we're
You're
not
not
on the same
compatible.
page. Her thing is YOLO.
YOLO.
So,
I love the YOLO
and
people.
mind you, we both come from the, like she has also come from a working class background and didn't have a lot. And because of that, she's like, when I have money, I spend and I enjoy.
Yeah.
And she has taken out large debt, credit card debt for that, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's just different for me because my upbringing made me where I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And me and her are always, she's always telling me like, you need to enjoy more. And I'm like,
But that's not how I enjoy
yeah,
it, right?
I'll enjoy once I've planned for that.
Yeah.
And I'll enjoy, and so people can be very different about it. You just have to observe what their value is around money.
Yeah. I think that's where being an introvert is an advantage. We can just observe people and like get
But
a
you actually
gauge.
have to like be aware of it because I think
Yeah.
that's what happens on dates, right? Is like people are attracted to somebody. So because you're attracted, you're overlooking.
Your logic
Yeah,
is thrown out
for
the
sure.
window.
You're not watching when somebody is.
It's very dangerous to fall in love, eh?
It is.
I don't even think you need to be in love. It's just lust. I think falling in lust
too.
is also a problem.
But you can kind of like figure, I mean, you wouldn't know exactly, but figure it out based on what you're talking about, based on
Yeah.
like their family, what their job is, like really the basic questions that you ask, anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and then
I
just
was
build off
very
from there.
surprised when I was living with my ex, which you know about.
Yeah.
He
Sorry, go on.
no, it's like I live with everybody. No,
No, for me,
Two
it's like,
people.
I don't know if I could ever do that.
What?
Live with like a
partner?
partner that I'm not married
It-
to.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
That would
I
be-
broke my family a long time
That would be
ago
interesting.
about that.
Yeah, I don't
They
know.
know.
Yeah.
But
I think that's gutsy though. I think that shows a lot of, because I know people like that. And I'm like, oh wow, already? Wow, good for you.
Well,
Cool.
listen, the last one, mistake.
Yeah.
This one, it took a long time before we moved in together.
But still, even
but
just
my
the
ex,
act of it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That was the first time, and that was a lot for me because as somebody who was a commitment phobe, everybody was like, how is she doing this? I also was recovering from a head injury. I blame it partially on that.
Okay.
But we only moved in 3.5 months after dating. Worst thing you could ever do. Don't ever, I really advise people not to do that. But he seemingly had a really great job, was very successful, doing his thing. And then, like, he cheated on me. So a lot of things came out around the end of that relationship. And a part of me was like, how do you, because then some stuff came up about spending and what. And I was just like, the red flag was that he was making a lot of money. Nothing was coming into the house because I could see what was being bought.
Right.
But he only had $35K in student loan debt, which is a lot. But for the amount of money he was making, I was like, you could actually just pay that off in like maybe a year. But had no money, was going paycheck to paycheck.
Always
so I was
follow
like,
the money.
Always follow the money.
Hush money.
Because there was something. I was like, oh, how come you don't have that? Even to the end, I was like, what the fuck were you doing? Well, I know where some of it was going. It was a happy ending massages. So it was like a whole thing. But it was, clearly this person had a thing that they were spending their money on outside. But they seemed like they were okay. Right. They had a good enough job. They seemed put together. And so I do think sometimes, like, I learned that you do have to have a little bit of a conversation at some point.
No, for
Not
sure.
right away in the beginning, but at some point, even figuring out, like, and then when you do move in with somebody, it's a next level thing of having, we had to have these discussions of what is the budget, also, like, how are we spending on expenses, like 50-50, doing what, is it, whose account is it coming out of? Like, we actually have a spreadsheet. So and for me, it's like, if I can't have a conversation with you about that, that's going to be a problem. And I say from the get, I was like, I don't even want to get married, but if I were to ever get married, prenup. And I'm the person who's
I
like,
learned
prenup.
about prenups. I mean, there's this really great lawyer. It's escaping my mind. But she was talking about prenups. And she was like, everybody should get a prenup.
Everybody.
Because it's you are telling how you want your assets to be divided, as opposed to the government coming in and just doing it for you. Because
it's also like, if you have your parents, right? If they gave you something like a house, and you suddenly got married, and then all your assets are united now, and it's 50-50. And to me, my thing was like, my parents should not be fucked over for my bad decision to be with somebody. You know what I mean? So I'm very like, I don't care if we're married, and like whatever happens after that, cool. But before that, I don't want your shit. You shouldn't want my shit. Let's not even keep that on the table, so nobody's ever using you for your money. It's just like whatever. Yes. But people have a hard time because I've seen a lot of girlfriends get mad that they're like, wait, why would you do a prenup? It means you don't believe. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe.
I don't believe in the government.
The belief is anything can happen. So I'm preparing for anything can happen. I'm a fucking producer. So I would rather live my life like not stressed than stressing last minute about it. But it is a very awkward conversation. Like, we have an expense sheet every month. I have to go and I do all the bill paying, but then I go like, hey, this is the thing. And then there's some things that he pays that I send money to. But like for us, we don't watch groceries. So like,
Yeah.
I'll go shopping one day. We don't do that 50-50.
Yeah.
He'll go, or he'll pay
Right.
one day. I'll pay another day for food, or if we go for dinners. So like it evens out that way.
Yeah.
But there's some things that you have to, have a discussion about. And also like, if you are going to get married, do you want to have a joint account? Do you want to, is it everything completely separate? And I've seen relationships that do both.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out what your
Yeah, it's a personal thing
thing
between the
is.
two people.
Yeah. So before we get into what are some red financial flags,
Yes.
you also want to explain something that is very important about.
Yeah, so there's like good debt, there's bad debt, right? So bad debt would be like student loan debt. It would be like high interest credit card debt. You don't want to like accrue those things if you,
know
can
what
help
I
it.
found out about with I didn't know this about credit cards, which I always keep pretty low, but like I won't get multiple credit cards because I don't like managing too much shit. But
Right.
that you had to keep it under 30%.
Yeah.
And just this 1 month, we bought tickets to India, and I bought it from my account,
Nice.
and it went above because of fucking India tickets. And my credit score, which is excellent, dropped to like 70 points.
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like, what? And I couldn't understand. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I have nothing else, everything.
Yeah.
But it went right back up as soon as it was
Right, as
done.
soon as you pay it, it's
yeah,
fine.
but once it processed.
That's good.
But for a second, it was so scary. I was like, how could this be? But it just also depends on your credit
Yeah.
history. I
Yeah.
haven't been in this country that long. So any
Right.
little thing affects my credit a lot more than it does for anybody who's been here and has
At some
credit
point, you
since they were
realize it's all
18.
like kind of BS, but it all kind of matters at the
Yeah.
same time because it's
Yeah,
also
exactly.
subjective. But like, yeah, credit utilization, keep your credit score keep your credit like use below 30%.
Mhm.
If you're not going to use a credit card, I've read in I think it's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Like, don't close the account, just keep it
Right.
open, just keep that.
Okay, but that would
Usage
be
zero.
a financial red flag to me. I dated somebody who
Oh,
did
really?
everything in cash, and it was a whole bunch of shady shit. So
Oh
I
no,
was like,
yeah, okay.
I was like, if somebody only functions on cash, to me, it's like somebody has no digital, like social media accounts.
trust
I'm
the
like,
government.
red
Yeah,
flag,
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
that.
But some people like don't use a credit card because they upgrade to another one, so
Oh,
they
yeah,
close
that's- yes.
right. But you probably shouldn't do that because you can just keep that
You can
and
keep
keep
it
that
open.
utilization. Nice.
Yes.
But back to what we were saying before is like there's good debt, there's bad debt. Like credit card debt is not good debt because there's a high interest rate.
Yeah.
Student loan debt is not the best, but like, what are you gonna do? You gotta go through it. If you want to get like educated. But like good debt is like you usually see it in like the real estate game with like real estate investors, right? So you're taking out a mortgage, you're putting maybe some down to buy an investment property. The rest of it is financed by a bank. Then it becomes like a lazy Susan kind of a thing. Like you don't want to pay the mortgage, you want the tenant to pay the mortgage, right?
Mhm.
So now you get the tenant, now they're paying mortgage interest, taxes, all that stuff. So you have debt, technically your business has debt, but you have a tenant that's paying for it. So that in theory is like, okay, that's like good debt. So if you ever talk to real estate investors, they, at least from what I've sort of seen, is like they want more debt, good debt that's producing an asset that somebody else is paying for. But it becomes like spinning plates. And that's, I think, what makes, to me at least, like real estate investing super intimidating is because you have to really have a good team around you, especially if you're going to buy outside of where you live. You need a property manager, you need a CPA, you need a lawyer, you need a good contractor. So that's like that takes, I think, at least from my opinion, is like that's the highest level of financial literacy. That takes like investing in index funds. What I do is like super easy. I think investing in the stock market in a way, because there's not as much management around it, and you're not managing people. But when you get into real estate and you're doing what like a Grant Cardone is doing, or Robert Kiyosaki is doing, or
what every fucking Wall Street guy is doing now is buying up all the houses across this country and
then
putting them up for rent.
Right, exactly. But that's the game. That's how you build wealth, because there's tax advantages to that.
Mhm.
Real estate just presents a lot of tax advantages for people, and you can make money tax-free.
Yeah.
And you build equity on somebody else's dollar.
Yeah.
Both the bank and the tenant.
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean like being a renter is bad and all that stuff. Because there's that thing of like, oh, I'm just paying somebody else's mortgage. Yes, but you can also owning a house is owning a house is the equivalent of like a very expensive savings account.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, that's exactly it.
But that's
exactly what it
that's
is.
good. So it's not like saving money is bad. Invest all your money. It's a balancing act that requires a lot of self-awareness.
So we were talking about financial red flags. What are some for you specifically?
I think spending beyond your means. I think anybody that like doesn't have the discipline to like have the self-control to go into a Target or go into this and be like, I had to buy it. I had to buy it. I had to. I don't really buy that. I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It's psychological.
But maybe I'm like that with food. Like it's there, the cheese is there, the this or that. And then I had the idea and I was like, all right. So I just dropped. But I won't drop like $2,000.
But that's the thing, right? Sometimes people who have...
Go on. There's something I want to say.
No,
but
tell
go on.
me.
There's this thing in Toronto.
What?
There's this restaurant in Toronto that does a lobster tower.
Oh.
And it's like $700. I would do that.
What is that?
It's like a tower of lobsters?
It's a Chinese restaurant. I think they do crab as well, like king crab.
Ooh.
But they have a whole aquarium, all this stuff. They have lobsters. They fry it Chinese style and make it. But it's like a whole tower. It's like this big
Wow.
of lobster, of like 50 pounds of
Crazy.
lobster.
What?
You would do that.
I would do that for $700. I would do that.
Okay, that's your thing. And you got
That's
to know
where
what
I would
your
spend
thing
money.
is.
So, it's a...
Totally.
Yeah.
Mine is traveling. I would spend money to go. And I usually take one international trip a year.
Nice. That's actually why I want to go back to
that's what-
Toronto.
Yeah, you should come.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would so do that.
The food in Toronto is amazing.
It's really good.
so good.
It was really
It's
good.
so good. Aisha, what are some of your like financial red flags?
I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where if you just don't really have a plan and if you're kind of just willy-nilly about things without any idea of what you're going to build upon from there. I
Yeah.
think that would be for me the biggest.
I mean, I also really look at, I do kind of, if I'm at some point dating somebody, I ask like how they save.
Mm.
And I'm always like, how much of a check do you save?
Yeah.
Because again, Indian mentality. If I told you one of my best friends is Sindhi, which is very specific. So I'm half Sindhi.
I know.
Right? Sindhis are known for being very
Great
frugal.
people, by the way. Great people.
Yeah, I'm half. So I love a Sindhis, but my mom is a Sindhi and she has that mentality of like, she took me when I was 12, made me start a bank account and, taught me when I had my first job at 15. She was like, your money goes there. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Oh, that's what she taught you? I
Yeah.
feel like my experience is like they love to party and they love to spend.
Oh, no. Sindhis are known to be cheap.
Oh.
Sindhis
mind.
and Gujus are like, that's
Really?
the stereotype
I thought she was going to go into like diamonds and like talk about diamonds.
there is, and it's true.
Okay,
there is
okay.
two parts of it.
South Indians love gold for some
Sindhis
reason.
love diamonds.
We love
and
gold for some reason.
They love diamonds.
That's what it's
Okay, okay.
That is. But
Never mind.
Sindhis also are like very known for saving because, in terms of the
Interesting.
caste system, we're the accountants and stuff like that. So one of my best friends, she is to this day, it's crazy. Her husband is a CTO, and she's a big chef, and they have always lived off one paycheck.
Wait, what?
And they
just save the rest?
Save the other
yes,
one?
they saved
That's
the
what I wanna
entire
do.
other one.
Holy
So
shit.
My whole goal
they
is to stay
only-
in my apartment, just make more money, but then just invest more
Yeah.
and just like save it.
yeah,
Wow.
and they do
Ideally.
so well.
Wild.
And they always did that. And that was like their thing. And what I was taught was take a check, put 50% away right away. Don't even look at it and live off 50%. So that's what I did. But so to me, I always ask like, how do they save? Or do
Yeah.
they save anything? Because if somebody's going paycheck to paycheck, I already know I have enough stress about it that I wouldn't want to worry about, again, somebody else's kind of stress. But other red flags that I was reading about was also if somebody's very secretive about money. So obviously you don't want to tell somebody how much you make.
Right. Yeah.
But if they don't want to disclose anything about, that means like there's something maybe they're hiding. Again, like when I was dating somebody and it was all cash, I was so young at the time, I didn't think that was a problem. And then I realized like, oh, he was doing a whole bunch of shit. So I was like, all right. But now I even ask people like, what is the plan for retirement? Like, or have they ever thought about it? Like,
that's
not about what's your plan, but I always say like, what would you want for that time in your life? You know?
I want to retire as a girl dad. That's my romantic idea.
That's adorable.
That's actually true.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I could see that for you.
And my wife can go work.
Wait, let me ask you.
She can go make money.
Yeah,
I don't care. I've already made my money.
I've been meaning to ask you this. So like, is part of, so you're also known for always saying that you like older women.
Yeah.
Is part of that appeal also like that?
The financial
like
stuff?
Financial stability or the.
I never really thought about that. But I think there is probably there's more maturity for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's more of an understanding of like responsibilities and stuff like that. So I'm sure that sort of internal conversation has happened of like, I got to learn about money. I got to pay for this. I got to do this. How am I supposed to do this as an independent woman? So yeah, maybe I'm sure subliminally.
Have they taught you stuff about finances?
About financial reasons.
And other things.
Have they taught me about finance? Kind of, sort of. I mean, like some of them are into real estate. I think I that's the game that for me is like super intimidating. And also because it just requires so much work. So anybody that's into that I've met that's older, I always pick their brains about it. Or if they're
You're
like
going
in
on
tech.
dates just for that.
Yeah. It's actually my side hustle.
Getting financial advice.
Getting
for
free financial. It's an investment.
That's funny. What are some green financial flags?
Oh, green flags if they know about index funds, if they know about which is super simple. If they I met someone recently and they were like, I save most of my money. I make a bunch of money a month, but I like literally live like I'm super frugal. I have like one credit card or something like that, and I just put it all in this. Or who are into like, they love like cheap food, but it like tastes good. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, but here's my one thing. I dated somebody who like, I love cheap food that tastes good. I just don't want a date to tell me that it was cheap. Like I had a guy that I kept dating or that I was in a relationship with, and he'd always be like, oh, we have this great restaurant, it's cheap. And I was like, okay, I don't need to know that it's cheap. Let's just go to the restaurant that has good food. You know what I mean? That's all I care about. But I didn't need to keep hearing it because then I was like, you're cheap.
Yeah. Subliminal
is
messages.
That just like
a little weird.
Or less expensive restaurants or like fast food?
Oh, I love fast food.
No, just like inexpensive.
Oh, fast
food. I do
so
eat fast food here
good.
too, but I love like
Big Mac right now. Want to hear?
Hey, there's one across the street from here.
Nah, I gotta the fries though.
The fries are the best.
I order for 4 people and I eat as one. That's the problem. That's
really?
That's how I spend on food. I have so much Chinese food waiting for me at home. It's so awesome. And a pint of ice cream.
Like, does that make you sleepy after?
It gives me regret. And I like regret.
Oh.
So wait, then do you work out? Because you're not.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But it's so that I don't feel as regretful.
You work out so you can eat.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah,
the pain
yeah.
and the self-loathing.
Sounds about right.
From binge eating. It's the best. It's like the hangover. It's just the best.
Yeah. I'm not a foodie. I'm not.
That's okay, actually.
For me, it's sleep, sex, food in that order.
In the order.
I eat food to survive because like I have to eat. And so I usually get myself to a place
I
where
think
I'm
that's
hungry.
a red flag for me.
Yeah, that could be.
Kind of. I just like people who like, I like going to restaurants though.
Yeah. So I now have learned because he loves really good food. He's a foodie. And so I have learned to really enjoy food. But my thing is like, I don't need to spend. I can eat the
Yeah,
exact
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
thing every single day,
Yeah.
and I don't care. But
Good
if
for
I
you.
eat, I just want it to be good.
Yes.
And now like I can appreciate
Yeah.
good food more.
Oh.
But I'm also like, unless somebody else wants to go, I'm not going to go by myself.
You know what I do for fun? I go on YouTube and watch behind the scenes of restaurants, of like Michelin star restaurants. That's how I discovered
Oh, yeah,
the
you are a
$700.
Did you watch the
Lobster.
menu?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Should I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Alright.
should.
It's like a very
What
it's like a foodie movie.
I've seen Burnt
I
with
don't.
Bradley Cooper.
Oh, I haven't seen
Play the
that.
chef.
Oh, I remember.
You would like the menu. It's it's like it's also satire on foodies and food
Oh,
culture.
I want it. I want that. I want to be friends with a chef.
Oh yeah, you should be friends with my best friend.
I was
Best
gonna
thing
say that,
growing
but I
up.
didn't want to. Like,
Coming up,
She always cooked for us, and I would purposely. I like didn't know how to cook before the pandemic, to be completely honest with you. And every time we would hang out, I would purposely like fuck up the onion chopping.
then she
just
takes
so she'd
over.
be like, "Oh, just let me do it," and I'm like,
That's
"Okay."
Hilarious.
All the time.
I
Me and
want
her
a chef.
husband.
I want a chef circle of friends.
Yeah.
And she was so good. She like chefs love to cook for you. It's like it's like part of their.
Yeah, that's their like.
They enjoy
yeah.
serving you.
I respect chefs so much.
So great.
I really
know how to
do.
Shit. I think some green financial flags are also like kind of what you said, like awareness around it, like
Yeah.
somebody being open to talk about it and having some kind of awareness about it. Do you have any like green flags?
That's a good question.
Just have a lot of it.
Yeah, right.
Fucking
Not a lot
A.
of money.
Come on.
Damn it. That's all we're asking for. It's
Same.
not too much.
It's great. Money's great.
It is.
It's so good.
I love having it.
I don't like when people say like money doesn't matter. I'm like, fuck you. You have
No.
never
Yeah,
been
no.
poor, have you?
Yeah.
Money
I
matters.
get so mad when
That-
people
that's
say
just
that.
So annoying.
I'm like, oh.
Money doesn't buy happiness.
Money matters.
I don't know.
No, it kind of does.
Mm,
It
it's
really
pretty
does. I'm
yummy.
much happier now than when I had no money.
Yeah. 100%.
Rahul, I think
100%.
people are gonna love this episode and get so much out of
Yeah.
it. You already did your 6 questions in the last episode, but guys, you're gonna have to follow us on Instagram to hear Rahul's dating confession. Think about that one.
I don't remember what I said.
I don't know, no, but you're gonna have to come up with one separately. So,
Oh,
Rahul,
really?
Yeah, we're gonna.
There's
shoot that
homework after this?
Yeah.
Get the
one.
outta
It's
here.
gonna
It's
be
more
like a
pop quiz.
30-second video. Rahul, thank you. We heart you.
Thanks. It was a pleasure
Um,
talking.
How can everyone find you? And your layman investor.
Yeah,
account.
so for
Yeah.
this one, you can find me on Instagram and
No,
what's the
sell
other one?
both. We're gonna have everything in our show descriptions, but you should also talk
Okay.
about both.
You can find me the Layman Investor if you want to talk about or learn about financial literacy on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want entertainment, the real Rahul Rai.
Love it. Guys, follow him. He's great. He's amazing. He's super fun. And all his socials will be in the show notes of this episode. We're also on social media. I made him so awkward. He's so awkward right now. He's like,
This is what happens when I break out of my shell.
You're just going to eat the mic.
Yeah.
Guys, we're also on social media. We're at Kinda Dating across the board.
I am at Aisha Says Dance across the board.
I'm at Natasha Chandel on Instagram, Facebook, and Natasha.Chandel on TikTok. Thank you so much for downloading this episode. If you like something you heard, please screenshot the episode and tag us on social media. Finally, I know it seems tough out there, but just try. Till next time. I hope you guys enjoyed that video and check out our next one. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more amazing dating, love, and relationship advice from me and so many expert guests. Follow us on socials. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. I'm Natasha Chandel, so you can find me too if you like. And join our newsletter on www.kindadating.com for lots of exclusives. See you soon.